I did a crash course in speed reading and I read, to my utter surprise, a 1000 pages book of War and Peace by Leo Tolstoy in just 10 minutes. Yes, a 1000 pages book in just 10 minutes. And after 10 minutes, I realized that it was something about war and peace. I hope you got the joke. So, the point I'm trying to drive home is that speed reading is an utter nonsense concept for me. It's a bullshit. Hello, good evening, and welcome to a new episode of Arguably the Reading Quest. I am Nishant. A very happy new year to all of you. I hope you had a wonderful 31st and 1st, and I hope all of you have, kick-started new year with, a lot of beautiful books. By this time, by the time the video will be released, it must be 7th or 8th, I assume. So in this week, I hope all of you must have stumbled upon a very many videos of by various YouTubers, booktubers as we popularly call them, uh, as to how many books they have read in the year 2024. And I find it, mm, somehow misplaced. I find this whole priority of reading as many books as possible misplaced. And let me tell you, I have a very good reason to say when I say this whole priority is misplaced. The stupidity of people sometimes and often at times is betrayed by the question that how many pages you can read in an hour, how many pages you can read in a day, how many books you can read in a week, how many books you have read in a month, how many books you have read in the last year. And trust me, I'm not exaggerating. There are YouTubers who have claimed that they have read as many as 175 books. Yes, I stumbled upon a YouTube video where he has claimed that, and he has million followers, that he has read 175 books. And I find this whole concept utter nonsense. The idea of speed reading itself is such a self defeating concept. For the sheer reason that, please understand, when we say, we have to read books, this whole concept of reading book is to pull ourselves out of this rat race culture, to pull ourselves out of this hustle and bustle culture. And if you fall again a rat race of reading as many books as possible, speed reading, just you want to tick all the books, that other people are reading, and you want to catch up with the Jonases, then I believe again you are in a rat race, albeit of a different kind of rat race, without ourselves being realizing it. And it's a kind of robotic conformity that we mindlessly adhere to. And I believe that is dangerous. First thing. Second thing, as to how many books or how many lines, one can read in an hour, or how many books I have read in a week or in a month, I do, is something that really troubles me because I don't really know, and I'm not much bothered about it. Sometimes I can uh, dabble with just one page of James Joyce for an hour completely. Sometimes I can dabble with just a couple of pages of Immanuel Kant for a whole day. Sometimes just a whole quote of, let's say, Somerset Maugham or Dostoevsky for minutes and minutes and hours. Sometimes just one book, say Middlemarch by George Eliot, for almost a couple of months, 3 to 4 months at a stretch. And sometimes not even a single page of Hegel or Ulysses in the whole year is what my concept of reading is. So, my dear friends, the point I'm trying to drive home is that, the ability to truly feel something is such a rare ability in today's world. And the whole idea of reading books is to truly feel, is to immerse yourself in deeper and deeper reading, is to get into the nuances of reading. And that can only be done when you come out of this rat race of reading as many books as possible. Because then you don't want to read, you simply want to boast of the books that you think you have read when actually, but to no avail. What you have read is God knows. right? And the answer as regards majority of people, what do they read? The majority, the answer is that they do not read. And there are just two motives to read a book, as Bertrand Russell says. Either you enjoy it or you can boast about it. So then again, go back to the first premise, as I said, that the ability to truly feel is such a vanishingly rare ability these days. So let's enjoy reading without counting on the number of books that, you know, we have read last year. And trust me, I have not kept a track of, how many books I have read in the last year. And I don't bother much about it. However, I have tried to, squeeze the list, as far as possible. And I have picked up 10 books in total, as you can see here, this stack of books. 10 books in total. Uh, I believe five fiction and five non-fiction that I'll suggest you, and that I believe are some of the best books that I have read, but not necessarily in the same order. So there is no attempt to rank these books on an order of scale from 1 to 10. Please. It's only about, you know, suggesting that these 10 books have a profound impact on my life. Now, you may ask me, how do I rate the greatness of book? There's one thing that counts, you know, mm, on the topmost. There's one thing that I value most when I want to rate a book is is the intensity of feeling, how hard the book hits me, how hard it had hit me. And if the book has hit me hard, I believe, there is something I rate as a supreme quality. Some kind of hitherto unknown aspects of human existence, some kind of idea that simply, baffles you or brightens you up from within, is how I rate the quality of the book. Irrespective of all the, the professional criticism that goes around reading a book. If the book has not hit you hard, then I believe that is not worth reading. So I always look for, the intensity of hitting, the intensity of being hit hard by a book. And that is how I rate, what are the books. So please come out of this trap of reading as many books as possible, because please understand, there are millions and millions and millions of gems that have been written in the whole history of humanity. And you cannot read all of them. You cannot read even a fraction of them. So please let's make us peace with ourselves, with the books, and read, for our own joy, the jouissance of reading, the intensity to feel it deeply. I hope all of you have heard the concept of T.S. Eliot's hollow men who have feelings but no intensity of feelings. So let's try to, rise ourselves above the concept of the hollow man, insofar as it's humanly possible for us to do that in the age of anxiety that is ours is. So the very first book, and what a wonderful discovery I suggest, is Mary Oliver. So Mary Oliver was a Pulitzer Prize and a very celebrated, I beg your pardon. Yeah, of course, she's Pulitzer Prize winning poet, Mary Oliver. And this is a beautiful, beautiful anthology of her poems, Devotions. And this is published at Penguin. This is such a beautiful discovery last year, 2024. So, if two things, if you're very fond of nature and if you want to read something or hold on to something that is very serene and that has a deep sense of stillness, I believe Mary Oliver is something that you must look up to. She is Maya Angelou. She is Sylvia Plath. She is Emily Dickinson. She is James Baldwin, and she is and all such names put together in one. Trust me, she is amazing. So please, if one book of poetry that you want to start your 2025 with, this should be this book, Mary Oliver's Devotion. Another book, because I have read a lot of existentialism in my life, and rightly so, I believe. I have read a lot of the whole tradition of existentialism. starting from Dostoevsky and uh, to Herman Hesse, and then going back to Samuel Beckett. I thought that what else could be written on the theme of grief, an existential theme. There is no such theme that needs to be discovered. So I was under this false sense of uh, acquaintance that everything about existentialism has been written. But sorry, you know, this book, hit me so hard that I was, delightfully astonished. And this is by Gorgy Gospodinov, The Physics of Sorrow. He has been awarded International Booker for his writing Time Shelter. And this book, The Physics of Sorrow, is written somewhere around 2013. 2013, and this has bagged several prizes in Europe, almost all the literary awards in Europe. Gorgy Gospodino, and this is based on a theme of abandonment. I have also done a separate video on this under the series The Ultra Contemporary Writings. So please read this. If one novel that you should and that you should have read is this. Another one is Kairos. I have again done a separate video on this, again under the title The Ultra Contemporary Writing Series. And this has been awarded the Book of the Year by the Times, Guardian, Telegraph, and she is the first writer from Germany to have won the International Booker Prize last year, that is in 2024. This book has hit me hard. Please read it. What a beautiful discovery. Very lesser known, obscure among the literary connoisseurs of India. Comtoiben, The Testament of Mary. So this has been told, this story is told from the point of view of a woman who has lost her young son to a fanatic movement called Christianity. And now she view her own life and how what are the events that surrounds the birth of the greatest religion in the past 2000 years, and that is Christianity. And then she gives a very humane and motherly account of how her own son was crucified, what she could have done to prevent the crucifixion. She is highly suspicious of the people who surrounded Christ, Jesus the Christ, and she wrote a testament. This is a beautiful, beautiful book. It feels as if you are in a medieval village with a lot of haunting images around you, and you are as if you're reading the book, so you're walking through the narrow alleys and passages of medieval Europe. So this is one book that is to be read. I have done a separate series on that. You can check out in the video description under the title the Ultra Contemporary Writing Series. Now again, one novelist that I go back to again and again, a novelist that I personally rate. I'm least bothered about the literary criticism surrounding her. I rate her above Charles Dickens and Thomas Hardy, and that is George Eliot. I have read her Middlemarch in 3 months' time. I have reread Middlemarch, but this time I wanted to dabble with a book that was her own favorite, Silas Marner. Silas Marner is a story of a weaver, Silas Marner, who somehow discovered an abandoned child, and then he adopted that abandoned child, and then he discovered the joy of fatherhood, the joy of parenting in that abandoned child, and the whole life of Silas Mana revolves around that abandoned child. Beautiful prose, beautiful intensity of human emotions, psychology of parenting, psychology of a father, an adoptive father who has adopted an abandoned child, and how he brings her up. A beautiful story. So Silas Manor is one novel, or Kafi Fatli. This is a very thin classic you can see of just 200 pages. So I hope you will enjoy it. You can pick it up as a beginner's classic as well. So you can dabble with it. Even the beginners can dabble with it. So one novel of George Eliot that was her own favorite. Another book and a Nobel Prize winner in literature, The Years by Annie and Rocks. She invented a new genre called the auto fiction, fictionalized autobiography or auto fiction. So this is considered to be her defining work, The Years. So The Years is a chronicle of the narrative of the period starting from 1941 to 2006 in France. How things have changed. So you can see a lot of images of France through the eyes of this novelist who herself was born and brought up in France. And you can see, and this book also is to be read because after a long time I have encountered that how uh, the class, the social class, the social capital, the cultural capital, the economic capital of a person changes as he climbs or she climbs up in the hierarchy. So the people who are interested in dabbling with Marxist literary criticism will find this book very uh, interesting, intriguing, I'll say. So the years is can be read as a narrative if you want to, discover beyond films what is France of 1941 to the France of 2006 looks like. So this book is one book to be read. Uh, so this is about the fiction part. Now let's come to the non-fiction part. In non-fiction, of course, I've selected 5 books, but not necessarily in the same order. So one of the greatest philosophers of past centuries, and I have read his work in original, but before, mm, after reading his original work, I wanted also to read something that will help me understand the nuances of his original work, which I believe was very important. And the philosopher I'm talking about is from Germany. I hope all of you guess. He was an Austrian, Ludwig Wittgenstein. So this is you know, a philosophical reflection of uh, the writings of Ludwig Wittgenstein, and this is by one of the foremost authorities on Wittgenstein, that is PMS Hacker, Peter Hacker. So if you want to read Wittgenstein, so I insist rather than reading him in original, you can first read this beautiful booklet, very small, short introduction, yet a very highly nuanced introduction by none other than a man who is considered to be the living authority, PMS Hacker, Peter Hacker. So you can buy this book, and this is published at Hachette. So in the Great Philosopher series, Wittgenstein by Peter Hacker can be read. What does it mean to be healthy? How does a healthy individual look like? Because people who have, been doing or reading psychology, I have seen most of the time have never come out of Sigmund Freud. And they always talk about, the psychopathology of everyday life. But what does it mean to be healthy? What does a healthy individual looks like? So this is what you need to know. What does a healthy individual look like? So this is written from the psychology, from the point of view of the psychology of health, towards the psychology of being by Abraham Maslow, a great psychologist. Please read it. Again, can be read as a beginner's book. One of the finest introduction to Buddhism, because every person or the other, every book YouTuber or the other is talking about Gautam Buddha. What Buddha taught? What were the things that he stood for? What was his philosophy of life? Everything in a nutshell, in a very lucid and a cogent manner. What Buddha taught by Rahula Walpole. And this is again published at Macmillan. One of the finest introduction to Buddhism. So you can directly start with this book and then you can dabble with the higher books on Buddhism. It's a very beautiful introduction to Buddhism. Highly recommend this one. Then again, after Buddha, another paradigmatic philosopher, the birth of whose led the world into 2 parts, before the birth of Socrates and after the birth of Socrates. So this is, the last magisterial study taken in the last century by W. K.C. Guthrie, a 7-volume study on on the history of Greek philosophy, starting from the pre-Socratic, ending up at Aristotle. So this is the third volume, that is Socrates. But this is not for beginners. I just remind you, this is not for beginners. If you have some kind of basics uh, at place when it comes to understanding Socrates, only then you can dabble with this book. But nonetheless, a very iconic book, but a technical one. Also, because there has been a lot of clamor around liberalism. So we cannot understand liberalism without putting it into the perspective of conservatism. Liberalism is such a glorified word, and conservatism is such an abused word. But what does conservatism mean? Who are conservatives? Are not some of the greatest philosophers of past century, starting from Hannah Arendt to Albert Camus, were conservatives? Was not T.S. Eliot himself one of the greatest conservative? Was not Ezra Pound himself a greatest conservative? And who was more profound than Hannah Arendt and Albert Camus when it comes to conservatism? Right. So, who is a conservative? By another great philosopher of this century, he passed away in the year 2016, Roger Scruton. Conservatism, a political philosophy, arguments for conservative. So, who is a conservative? I'll make a separate video on this. So, this is to be read in order to understand that conservatism is not what all we have been thinking about. It is something deeper, something more profound, something that is to hold on to. Of course, yes, you cannot, accept a philosophy in its totality and reject it in its totality. Of course, there are elements that are to be agreed upon, there are elements to be disagreed upon. But I believe this is a beautiful, beautiful philosophy, a philosophy that has shaped, some of the greatest geniuses of our time, starting from T.S. Eliot to Ezra Pound to Hannah Arendt to Albert Camus. So these 10 books, guys, I hope you have enjoyed the video. Please do let me know, what are the books that you are planning to read? What are the books that you have read in the last year? Have you read any one of these books that I have suggested? If yes, please do let me know. How did you like this book, these books that you have read? And, what do you think, are some of the topics that I can, make videos on? What do you think, I can add more to my video? Please do comment, and I'll try to reply to each one of your comments individually, insofar as it's possible for me to do so. If you've still not liked, shared, and subscribed my YouTube channel, Arguably the Reading Quest, please do that. Please click the bell icon and please stay tuned for more notifications. Happy reading, guys.